Difficulty in providing education is one of the effects of population explosion. So lactation means production of milk, right? So when does the production of milk start? As soon as the woman gives birth to a child. So in intrauterine devices, there are three types. One is non-medicated intrauterine devices. The other one is copper releasing intrauterine devices, and the other one is hormone releasing intrauterine devices, providing incentives to couples with small families. Hello everyone, a warm welcome to this concept class on chapter 3, that is reproductive health for class 12 biology. I'm Dr. Divya, biology faculty. So in the previous session of this chapter, we had learnt about the reproductive health, how important it is, and we also learnt about some of the reproductive health and child care programs that were set up by the government. So in this session, we'll learn about population explosion and how to control the population explosion. So talking about population explosion, it is nothing but the growth of the population or the increase in the population in a particular region or a state or a country. Now, what were the reasons for this population explosion? So population explosion happened because there was a rapid decline in death rate. That is, that the death rate of the individual became slow or it gradually declined. And the main reason for that is development in advanced development in science, technology and in the medical field. Next is maternal mortality rate. Maternal mortality rate is nothing but the death of the mother. So as and when government started concentrating on the reproductive health, the maternity of the mother, and also a lot of improvements were made in the field of medicine towards reproductive processes, because of that the mortality or the death of the mother also started declining. Earlier what used to happen was there were no much medical facilities were available, and there were no much hospitals that were there or maternity centers that were there. So therefore the women used to deliver the child at a home itself under unhygienic condition most of the time, which would lead to the death of the mother due to some complication and all that. But all that is prevented nowadays because of advancement in the technology. And also the infant mortality rate also declined, and the death of the infants, that is the babies, soon after the birth also drastically came down because of the improvement in the field of medicine, science and technology. And not just that, nowadays if the baby is having any problem, first itself it can be found out when the baby is in the mother womb, and the corrections can be tried to made, or as soon as the baby is delivered, if the baby has a jaundice or something, it can be corrected in the hospitals itself. So all that prevented, or if the baby is not breathing properly or has any breathing difficulty and all that, or if it is a premature baby, then there are NICU units that are there to take care of the babies. But earlier all that was not there, which used to result in the death of the infants. But now the infant mortality rate has also come down, and all these three, that is the decline in the death rate, be it the maternal death mortality rate or the infant mortality rate, because of a drastic decrease in both of these, the population started to increase. And also increase in the number of people of reproducible age. So more the number of people of reproducible age, that is who have had their menstrual cycle, or who have already, that is who have got the menarche or who have entered into the menstrual cycle, they are now in the reproductive age where they are capable of giving birth to young ones. So therefore the increase, when we look at the population, the number of girls who have reached the reproductive age or the number of boys who have reached the fertility age is more. So therefore increase in number of people in reproducible age also is one of the major factors for population explosion. And population explosion, in one way, why we learned why population explosion happened, because something good happened to the people. The lifestyle of the people changed, the advancement in science and technology in the field of medicine, all that made an increase or decrease the death rate of the individuals, thereby increasing the population. But population explosion has a large number of effects on the people themselves. So what are those? We shall look into. First thing that will happen if there is population explosion or increase in population is shortage of food, because more the population, more infrastructure is needed. More infrastructure, the development of the or conversion of the agricultural lands will get converted into industrial lands and all that, because at the end of the day people need money, and if they need money they'll have to work. So for providing them work, lots of industries, IT parks, all that buildings will come up. So therefore agricultural land can get hindered. Apart from that, more the population of people, more the demand for food. So how much demand is there for the food, so much agricultural produce need to be there, but the agricultural fields that are there are not capable of producing that amount of food as per the demand of the growing population. So therefore shortage of food will occur. Next thing is unemployment, because how many people can we provide jobs with, right? We can't provide job to the entire population of people who are at the age of attending to jobs, right? So therefore unemployment will be one of the major problems. And also, as and when the population increases, a lot of technology development also will start to take place, and the technology itself will start replacing the people, wherein the people will not get enough jobs. Next is difficulties in providing education. If there is no curb brought in the population explosion, say for example, there is a slogan, Hum do, Hamare do, wherein each family needs to have, in India, each family should have 2 children. So if 2 children or if one child is there, then it is easy for the family to support the child's education. Now, if more number of children mean, with the rising amount of fees and all that, of fee infrastructure and all that, it is very, very difficult for the parents to pay their school fees, send them to school or give proper education to them. So therefore, it will be quite difficult if the population of a family is more. So difficulty in providing education is one of the effects of population explosion. Next is it will lead to poverty, because more the number of people in a family, more amount of resources is needed in the form of food, water, electricity, everything. So for all that, money is needed. When they'll start spending money on all of these, then the money that is needed for the other things will not be sufficient. So therefore, it will lead to a lot of poverty also. So these are the effects of population explosion. Now, what are the control measures? How can we control this population explosion? One thing is to motivate smaller families. As I said, hum do, hamare do, right? At only the number of children in a family or for a parent should be limited to 2, right? So that the family can live happily. So that is one, to motivate smaller families. Next is to use various contraceptive methods. Now, how can we prevent from accidentally having a third child, which is not required, which can be a burden to the parents whose income level is not that good. So when such cases are there, there are various contraceptive methods that can be followed. That is the natural methods, the barrier methods, all that can be followed. So what are those? We'll study in the coming sessions. Next, statutory raising of marriageable age of the female to 18 years and that of the males to 21 years. So 18 years, why? Because when the female is of 18 years, she'll know what is good for her and what is not. She'll be capable of understanding it. They'll be mature enough to know what is good for the family and what is not. How their financial condition is. So how many children we should have. All that they will have an idea about. So that is why it is very, very important. And also the reproductive health of a girl is good when she is of the 18 years age. It is the right time or the right age for her to bear a child. So before that, it will lead to a lot of complications in her also. That is also one of the reasons. But one of the control measure for population explosion is raising the marriageable age of females to 18 years and males to 21 years. So that they'll be mature enough to understand the problems of the country, and also if we give birth to more children, what problems the family can face, that also they'll have a knowledge about it. Next is providing incentives to couples with small families. Say for example, in China and all that, they had put forth something, right, wherein if one child is there in the family, then free education for that child or some scholarships like that. Some incentives can be given so that they'll have an interest, so that okay, if I have only one child in the family, then all the benefits of the child get from the government, then why should I go for the second child, right? It will be a burden. So all that will be like a boon, or it will urge those families to have only one or two child. So all this are some of the control measures that can be put forth by the government, or are being put forth by the government to control the growing population. So I told you one of the major methods of controlling the population is using birth control. So we will study about the different birth controls. So talking about what are birth controls? Birth controls are nothing but the contraceptive methods. So contraceptive. So the word called contraception means to prevent something. What to prevent here? To prevent the birth of the child by preventing pregnancy. So that is called as contraception. So there are various contraceptions method that are followed. Before moving to that, we should understand how an ideal contraceptive means. So to call something as a contraceptive, be it a barrier method, a chemical method, or a natural method, be it anything, there has to be something to say that this is an ideal contraceptive which can be used to control the birth of an individual. So an ideal contraceptive should have the following characteristics. One is it should be user friendly. It should not be too complicated for the individual to understand how to use it. It should not be of a rocket science or something. And it should be easily available so that the individuals can purchase it from any of the pharmacists and all that. Or if we go towards Kerala, we can see some vending machines that actually will deliver condoms. You just need to put the coins there, how much is required, like how we have vending machines here, no, to wherein we put the coin and we get juices or whatever we want out of it. Same way there they have for condoms. It's just like how the ATM works, the condom machine they have. So same way it should be easily available. And next, it should be effective. We give money to buy the contraceptives. It should be equally effective. It's not that something, the contraceptive is not of that good quality and suddenly, spite of you using that, the women gets pregnant, then it is of no use. So therefore, it should be quite effective. Next, reversible with no or at least side effects. So this contraceptive should have no side effects on the individuals using it. So otherwise the skin rashes developing or some allergies towards the chemicals used in the contraceptives, all that side effects, if it happens, then the people will think twice about using them for birth control. So to avoid that, it should have least side effects or no side effects at all. And it should not interfere with the sexual drive or desire of the individual, because whoever is involved using it should not have any problem with using it. So that is some of the ideal method or ideal features that a contraceptive should have. So now we know about what are contraceptives and what are the features for something to be called as a contraceptive. Now we'll talk about the contraceptive methods. So there are different methods. One is natural or traditional method. The other one is barrier method. Third one is intrauterine devices. Fourth one, it's oral contraceptives. Next one is injectable method. Next is implants, and last one is surgical methods. So we'll talk about each of these one by one. So first, talking about the natural method or the traditional method. In natural method or traditional method, what is followed is we have learned in human reproduction, that is chapter 2. If not, you can have a look at that particular session wherein we talked about the menstrual cycle, if you remember. And menstrual cycle is a 28-day cycle wherein once in every 28 days, the female menstruate, wherein the first 3 days of the menstrual cycle is where bleeding happens, and next 3 stages, what happens, we had studied, right? And it is in the 14th day of the menstrual cycle that the ovulation happens, and it is during the 14th day of the menstrual cycle, if copulation occurs, then only the female will be able to get pregnant, because the ova or the egg is released only on the 14th day of the menstrual cycle. Now, what can be done? This is one of the natural methods. So, periodic abstinence. So, in periodic abstinence, it means when there is no bleeding. So bleeding doesn't occur after the 5th day. That is usually 1st to 5th day of the menstrual cycle. 1st to 3rd or 1st to 5th, usually bleeding occurs. After that, that is from 10th to 17th, because ovulation can happen from 10 to 17. Usually it will happen on the 14th day, but depending on the kind of reproductive health the individual is having, it can happen from 10 to 17th also. So after the menstruation happens in a woman, or on the beginning of the menstrual cycle, that is after the 10th day up till the 17th day, copulation should not occur. So therefore fertilization will not happen and the women will not get pregnant. That is called as periodic abstinence. And one more is withdrawal or coitus interruptus. So withdrawal or coitus interruptus is nothing but during copulation, as soon as the penis is inserted into the vagina of the female or the cervix of the female, before ejaculating the sperms, the penis should be withdrawn out so that the sperms doesn't get ejaculated into the cervix or the female. So that is what is done here. That is withdrawal or coitus interruptus method. And third one is lactational amenorrhea. So lactation means production of milk, right? So when does the production of milk start? As soon as the woman gives birth to a child. So the woman can feed her baby up to 1 year. So continuous feeding of the baby will, during that time, there is absence of menstruation or there is absence of periods. So during that time also ovulation will not occur when the mother is feeding the child, that is breastfeeding the child. Lactation, that is menstruation, will not occur, and during that time also it acts like a natural contraceptive. So these are the 3 important natural methods for birth control or to prevent pregnancy. So next method is barrier method. In barrier, the barrier means a wall, right, or blockage of something. So in barrier method, the ovum or the ova or the egg or the sperms are prevented from reaching the egg. So that is what should be done here. So what are the barriers that can be used? One is condom, which is latex, a latex that is a shield, which is worn by the male, that prevents the flow of the sperms towards the egg of the female. Next is this is used by male and these are used by females. That is diaphragm, cervical caps and vault. So all these cervical caps and all that, when it is worn in the cervix, it will prevent the sperms from entering into the cervix and reaching the ova. So these 2 are the important barrier methods. So next we'll talk about intrauterine devices. So intrauterine devices, the name itself says intra, meaning within where it is inserted within the uterus. So that is why it's called intrauterine devices. So in intrauterine devices, there are 3 types. One is non-medicated intrauterine devices. The other one is copper-releasing intrauterine devices. And the other one is hormone-releasing intrauterine devices. So non-medicated intrauterine devices such as the Lippers loop, it is non-medicated, but this loop-like structure that is there, it is inserted into the uterus and it prevents or it blocks the opening of the fallopian tubes. Therefore, the sperm cannot travel and it cannot reach the ova. So that is how Lippers loop is used. Next is copper-releasing IUD. We have copper T, copper Z and multi-load 375. So copper T, copper Z and multi-load 375. So this is an example. These 2 are copper T. So it's made up of copper. So it is inserted into the uterus, wherein this T structure that is there, it blocks or prevents the entry of the sperm. So once the sperm enters into the cervix and through the vagina, it can't travel here because the mouth of the fallopian tube towards the uterus is being blocked. So therefore, it can't travel and reach the ova and fertilize it. And the sperm eventually dies. So that is how the birth can be, or the fertilization process can be prevented. Next is hormone releasing IUDs. The name itself says they release hormones. What hormones? They release progesterone and one more is ING20. So they hormone releasing IUDs like Progestasert and ING20 are being used. So these are also inserted into the female reproductive tract, wherein it will start releasing some hormones which will kill the sperms or will make the sperms inactive, so that those inactive sperms cannot swim towards the ova or the egg, because sperms, if they are inactive, they cannot swim. So that is how the pregnancy can be prevented, by preventing fertilization. So these are the intrauterine devices. So next, moving to surgical methods, which is also called as sterilization. So there are two important surgical methods. One is vasectomy and the other one is tubectomy. So vasectomy. So there is a connectivity between the testis to that of the penis by a tube-like structure called vas deferens. So from the testis, the sperm that is released will travel through the vas deferens and it will enter into the penis and it will be ejaculated through the penis. Now what they do under vasectomy is that they will cut this. So this is the vas deferens tube. So they will make a cut. As you can see here, a cut is made and they have tied it. They tie it. Now when the sperm is traveling here, it will reach here, but it cannot go further because the vas deferens tube has been cut. So that is how the sperms will not reach the female reproductive tract. So that is one of the methods. Tubectomy. So vasectomy is done in males. Tubectomy is done for, it is a surgical method done for females. In tubectomy, the fallopian tube is cut. So what they do is, so because it is the fallopian tube, so whatever ova or egg is produced, it is carried by the fallopian tube till here. Then the sperm travels here and then the fertilization process takes place, right? But if a cut, see this portion, if a cut is made in the fallopian tube and two ends of the cut are tied, then how can the ova or the sperm reach each other? Not possible. Therefore, these are permanent methods. So therefore, pregnancy can be prevented. So these are the two surgical methods or sterilization methods. Next is, what is the disadvantages of contraceptive methods? So there are some disadvantages. One is the selection of a suitable contraceptive method should be done only after consulting a medical professional, because some of them may be that is because of the lubricants that are used or chemicals used in these contraceptive methods, that are they beat the barrier method or the surgical method, some complications will be there. So therefore, proper guidance with the medical supervisor is always advised. And the contraceptives, they are not regular requirements for the maintenance of reproductive health, because contraceptive can be used only to prevent the fertilization of the sperm with the egg to avoid pregnancy. But some of the sexually transmitted diseases cannot be avoided by using these contraceptive methods. So that's why. And contraceptive methods are practiced against a natural event. So they are practiced against a natural reproductive event. Means reproductive event is a natural process wherein the sperm will meet with the egg, it will fuse to form the zygote and then the embryo, and the formation of the fetus and all that will take place. Now what happens, some of the people, they will unnecessarily use these contraceptive methods to prevent the formation of a future generation or to prevent childbirth. So therefore, they can be practiced against the natural reproductive event also. Sometimes it can be used against that. And these contraceptive methods have their own side effects such as nausea, abdominal pain and breakthrough bleeding. That is, though menstruation may not occur, and instead of that, only in between some small amounts of spotting or bleeding can happen, and irregular menstrual bleeding can occur, and also even too much of use of contraception, say for example progesterone, all of those that is in the form of pills that is taken. The best example that I can give of is Saheli. So Saheli is one of the best contraceptive methods, oral contraceptive method. It is an oral contraceptive method wherein the pills can be taken and it will release some of the hormones which can prevent contraception. So all those that is can lead to breast cancer, because some hormone therapies and all that, if it is done for contraception, it can lead to breast cancer also, because that also depends on our breast tissues. The development of our breast tissues also depends on these female hormones itself. That's why. So these are some of the disadvantages. So this was about the session wherein we learned about population explosion. What is it? What is the reasons for population explosion? And one of the main factors how we can control population explosion. One of the main factors is by using birth control. So what are the different birth controls we have studied, and in that different birth control we studied about the natural barrier methods and the intrauterine device methods and surgical methods, and also I told you one more at the end, that is the contraceptive hormonal method, that is wherein we can use pills, that is especially Saheli, that is the common one that is available, or contraceptive pills can be used. So this is about the session. In the coming session we'll learn about medical termination of pregnancy, and we'll also learn about sexually transmitted diseases and about infertility. So it is about these topics we'll study in the next session. So see you in the next session. Thank you.